Howdy, and welcome to the Texas Bucket List, the show that celebrates everything there is to experience right here in the Lone Star State. My name is Shane McAuliffe, and we start our 10th season in a spot that hasn't seen the sun in some time. In fact, over the last century, not too many people have seen this place, but now it's open to amaze. Houston has always sparkled, and the hustle and bustle of downtown is apparent each and every day. But underneath this big old city is something a bit more serene than the city streets of H-Town that was almost forgotten.
It was just sitting there.
Judy Nyquist with the Buffalo Bayou Partnership brought us to the banks of the Bayou, which happens to be in the shadow of the Space City.
I'm a huge enthusiast of these green spaces in Houston, this being one of the premier and most visited one in the city.
Well, we're not here for a walk in the park. We're here for a subterranean hidden treasure.
Can't describe it. Just prepare to be amazed. These are the doors leading to the mysterious cistern.
Would have never expected anything to be behind this, but this is interesting. All right. Judy took us to some low-key locked-down doors that led the way to the cistern, a recently acquired acquisition that's been filled with agua for ages. So this is the entrance.
This is the entrance. It snakes along just about, 30 feet.
Okay.
And you'll notice here, this was built recently, just 2 years ago. You'll notice here this very interesting treatment of the concrete, which is called board form concrete. And you'll see the grain of wood that was pressed against it in order to create that pattern. This is reminiscent, or it's the same technique that's used inside of the cistern on the ceiling, so it's taken from that.
Kind of keeping with the tradition.
Exactly. After this very enclosed passageway, we're all of a sudden going to feel like Alice in Alice in Wonderland as we enter the space.
Very neat. All right, after you.
So here we go.
Wow. That is amazing. Built in 1926 to supply the city with water, it was forgotten for decades in the dark until this grand space sprung a leak in the 2000s. Initial plans called for constructing the cistern into a place to park. So when you guys entered in here, it was completely dark.
That's right. If you see these small ladders here, these were the only entrance areas, the hatches, and this was in the day the maintenance, how staff and crew would have come down to maintain the cistern. And when they came down and shined the flashlight, they saw this absolutely magnificent columned space. Obviously, as soon as they saw this, they knew that it was destined for much grander things than for parking, and so it was decided early on with the city to find a way to repurpose it as an architectural relic and as a site for visitors to learn about water and the history of water in Houston. And also, most importantly, that the Buffalo Bayou wished to program it for public art.
For nearly 100 years, this 87,000 square foot cistern held on to 15 million gallons of water.
It's sort of something that sounds so antique that you would not expect something like this to be in a city like Houston. So it's just it's a real phenomenon, and it's just like all of our other attractions. It's a great thing to see. I mean, you have magnificent buildings and great things like the Astrodome and such things that were, the eighth wonder of the world, and still we have these kind of much more industrial places that are equally interesting.
221 concrete columns measuring 25 feet tall and about 6 inches of water make up this space that messes with your senses.
The reflection is something unbelievable. It's just, as you said, it completely plays with your own personal perspective and throws you off balance. It looks as if these columns are just continuous, and it's actually a reflection on the water.
The deception in the perception gets the biggest reception from visitors.
The cavernous space is fascinating from a light and sound perspective.
The reflection's awesome. It looks like there's a whole nother story underneath the water.
It just messes with your mind.
Completely.
Prior to heading inside, we do have a few rules and regulations that we need to go over.
Touring the cistern started in 2016. And despite the large-scale space, only about 30 folks are allowed in at a time. But that's enough to properly showcase the Cistern's 17-second echo.
The echo is intense.
It's amazing.
Some think it's a bit spooky. Others side with the serene solitude. Either way, getting to see this sunken site is well worth a stop on the Texas bucket list.
It was certainly unusual to think of an idea to take this space and do something new with and really treasure it for what it was and not try to make it something else or just destroy it. It's very special. We are very lucky.
I had no idea it was here. I had no idea how big it was.
The engineering here is just amazing.
It's one of the jewels in our crown. And for me, it's a space that I never tire of.
It's a key part in the history of Houston. It's really cool, and it's played a role in Houston's development, so everyone should definitely come check it out.